So let's talk about the Pistons could be losing Isaiah Stewart for nothing. Now, do I think that's going to ultimately happen? No, I think they got some positions, some plays in place. But the thing is this. If they roll out, let's just say they get Norman Powell. They get Powell, K, keep Duran, keep Asar, keep Tobias. And basically the only real major move they make is, let's say they get a center to help replace, Stu, some low-level center, and Norman Powell. And that's the only, move they make to lose Isaiah Stewart. And especially if they lose Jalen Duran and didn't keep Isaiah Stewart, I think that's going to be a bad look. It may be looking like they prematurely got rid of Isaiah Stewart. And if all they got to show for Isaiah Stewart is Norman Powell, I think some people will be okay with it, but they'd be like, I feel like you could have did that without getting rid of Norman Powell. Especially if you get Norman Powell and you get Isaiah Joe and you cut Duncan Robinson, people just like, you could have just, kept Stewart then. You know what I'm saying? So how they feel this roster ran, and also how people feel about Isaiah Stewart, if they don't do enough with this roster and they got rid of Isaiah Stewart, people gonna have a lot to say. People not gonna like that move. Now, if they lose Isaiah Stewart, and they put a hell of a roster behind them, they end up getting a Trey Murphy, or they end getting up a Norman Powell, or they get another, phenomenal two guard, and they get a good power forward. I think people okay with that. If we get rid of Stewart and we end up getting let's just say we end up getting Powell, we get Trey Murphy at the 4, I think people be fine with that. I think people will be fine with that. People, all right, I can deal with that. But if you go out there and you lose Duran, and you only add Norman Powell, people gonna be like, damn, we could have kept Stu. Or you go out there, you keep Duran, and all you add is Norman Powell. You cut Duncan and you get Isaiah Joe in there. I mean, a lot of people gonna be like, okay, cool. And then the next thing gonna be, is this a Corey kid gonna get some burn? Is he gonna start? So there's a lot of questions to be had here. But I think if they don't do enough on paper, and then it also doesn't translate to this team, doing better next season. If doing better is subjective, whether it's winning more games or it's advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals. If they don't do better, then a lot of people is gonna have a lot to say. Because a lot of people wondering, why is Karis LeVert still on the team? You got rid of Isaiah Stewart and you couldn't get nobody to take Karis LeVert contract? You could have just dumped Karis LeVert somewhere and gave somebody some picks to take Karis LeVert. You know what I'm saying? So that leads me to believe that they got another trade cooking because they would need that Karis LeVert contract. What I tell you, if they don't do nothing in major in general, and Isaiah Joe is the guy out there, or they just get Norman Powell and they don't fix the 4th and they get rid of Stu and it don't make sense to fans, they gonna be like, well, why you didn't get rid of that Karis LeVert contract? But that leads me to believe by them keeping Karis LeVert, if they keep Karis LeVert, that leads me to believe that's their boy. That leads me to believe that's their boy. That's what that lead me to believe is that's their boy. But I think by him still being on his roster, I think he might be part of a bigger trade, because that around $20 million contract, somewhere around there, that's important. That's, to go out there to help take that cap hit if you make a trade for another guy. So in my opinion, that becomes very, very important. So yeah. I mean, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be very, very interesting. It's gonna be very interesting to see kind of how this work out, because if they got rid of Isaiah Stewart and they don't have something significant to show for why we got rid of him, hey, fans gonna be mad. Fans gonna be mad as hell. Fans are gonna be mad as hell. So that's another thing. Most people just looking because the history of the Pistons. Most people looking like, yeah, did they prematurely get rid of beef stew? Did they prematurely get rid of beef stew? And at some point, at this point, because it's quiet on the free agent market, because it seemed like all the energy is probably going towards signing Tobias Harris, going towards signing Jalen Duren back, going back to signing Asar to a contract extension. All that energy going there right now. If nothing major really happen, I'm telling you right now, people gonna be mad as hell. And most people would have rather kept Isaiah Stewart. Most people would have rather kept Isaiah Stewart than Jalen Duren at this point. Now, we know Stu can't play starter minutes. He just don't have the durability to play starter more. He gonna give you a good 20 minutes a game. 25 on a good night. But right now, you getting rid of Stu as fast as you did. Dog, you can't get rid of Stu and keep that Karis LeVert contract. You can't keep Karis LeVert and get rid of Stu. There just has to be another move that's in the work. Because if you're trying to go get a Kawhi, which they want, I'm just throwing it out there, they're not interested in Jaylen Brown, which I think that's a mistake. If you going out there, let's say, get a $50 million contract, I think Karis LeVert is $20 million. So you need him to make that deal work. Then you supposed to throw in the guy like, Stu at 15, 35, 35. I don't know what they doing, bro. But if they don't have nothing respectable to show for Isaiah Stewart for just getting rid of him, a lot of people going to have an issue with it. A lot of people going to have an issue with it. So, like I said, we'll see. Did they prematurely get rid of him without having some certified moves? I don't know. Only time will tell. But I know the definition of big move for the Detroit Pistons, the city of Detroit, is never aligned with the true definition. And you got a draft class that's gone. Killian no longer with us. Stu no longer with us. Sadiq Bey no longer with us. And also on top of all of that, they passed up on Tyrese Maxey, Tyrese Halliburton, in that very same draft, just to name a couple. But hey, hit the link in the description. Check out Detroit Pistons Talk playlist. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Find me on X, Facebook, Kick, Twitch, Instagram, Spotify, Anchor, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. Appreciate the love and support. Let me know what you girls and guys think in the comment section. Peace.